Welcome, football fans, to another episode here of Tim Reynolds Show's Friday Football Talk. Hope you guys are doing well as we're covering over week 2 of the 2025 NFL preseason of the games to take place this weekend. We do have a couple of games that are taking place currently right now on this Friday night. So thank you everybody for hanging out here on the channel. Please make sure that you guys hit that like button, subscribe to Tim Reynolds Show for more football content and more NFL content as we get forward and we get to the 2025 NFL season. It's awesome to be on here with you guys. Hope you guys are having a wonderful night here on this beautiful Friday evening. We just got done doing our live play-by-play, our WWE live play-by-play for Friday Night SmackDown. So we'll get here with you guys going over the certain football games that are happening here in week 2 of the NFL preseason. Hope you guys are doing well here on this Friday evening. All right, guys, so we'll go over the first game here tonight as we see the Falcons were able to take on the Tennessee Titans at home in week 2 of the preseason. The Falcons came in 0-1 after losing their previous week's preseason game, and so did the Tennessee Titans taking on my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We see in this game a pretty decent game overall as the Tennessee Titans were able to get the victory 23-20 over the Atlanta Falcons. And here as we go over some of the key stats, we'll start with the Tennessee Titans, the winning team. We see Cam Ward went 2 for 7 today, only throwing for 42 yards on 3 series played throughout this game. We did see on social media that apparently there were a lot of drops by wide receivers for Cam Ward as he started out in his matchup. So I'm really interested to see how Cam Ward is going to be able to play in this offense going forward, because if these pass catchers can't catch the ball, then how can we expect Cam Ward to really do much of anything in this Tennessee Titans offense coming up this year? But hey, it's nice to see Cam Ward still try to stick in there, be a leader for his team through the ups and downs. We also see this past week the Tennessee Titans did sign veteran quarterback Trevor Siemian, who came in this game, went 4 for 7 for 34 yards. He did take a sack, however. But Brandon Allen is the one who pretty much probably secured the backup quarterback job here for the Tennessee Titans. As we see the number 10 quarterback, Brandon Allen, went 11 for 14 for 119 yards passing, through 1 passing touchdown and also 1 interception. But definitely a good day for him for the Tennessee Titans backups. And speaking of backups, we've seen Jordan Mims, the running back for the Tennessee Titans, had 12 carries for 50 yards in this matchup. We also seen Mullins, the running back from the Michigan Wolverines, had 8 carries for 25 yards as well, averaging just over 3 yards per carry. So a nice game there for him. Mullins could be a big power back that could play a big role in this Tennessee Titans offense going forward. So definitely a guy to keep your eye on. Especially if you're in sleeper leagues, Mullins could definitely be a guy to take a low sort of, if you will, I guess guess on or bet on, if you will, or gamble, because I really do think that Mullins could be a guy who ends up being a workhorse running back or the starting running back for the Tennessee Titans if we so happen to get some injuries to Tony Pollard and whatnot. We see the rookie tight end out of the University of Texas from the Longhorns, Gunnar Helm, led all receivers with 4 catches for 48 yards and the lone touchdown catch there in this matchup. So definitely a guy to keep your eye on for the Tennessee Titans. I think Gunnar Helm is a tight end that can be a workhorse tight end, and definitely a guy I see catching a lot of passes this year, his rookie year for the Tennessee Titans. We'll have to see how good he will be if he's able to sort of stick with Cam Ward and create more of a rapport with him in this upcoming matchup. That'll be interesting to see as well. Okay, guys, so going over to the defensive stats here of note for the Tennessee Titans, we've seen Cedric Gray, number 51, had 7 total tackles with 5 solo tackles, also got a half a sack and a tackle for loss. We also seen Carlos Watkins also got 3 total tackles with a half a sack as well in this matchup. So going over to the Atlanta Falcons, what we've seen for their offense in this game, Easton Stick went 19 for 32 for 173 yards passing with one passing touchdown and one interception. He was sacked 2 times in this game. And Emory Jones, who actually was the guy that they thought could compete for that third quarterback position, because remember, the Atlanta Falcons still have Kirk Cousins on their roster, so he for sure will be the backup. So this battle between Easton Stick and Emory Jones will be for that third quarterback spot. It looks like Emory Jones is not getting much of a leeway or much of a chance here so far. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Nathan Carter had a very, very good day in the backfield with 9 carries for 63 yards and a long 43-yard touchdown run for the Atlanta Falcons rushing attack. The quarterback also had 2 carries for 14 yards to go with his 173 yards passing. He did go 19 for 32, so a pretty good day for Easton Stick as well. Not much of note to go over for the running game for the Atlanta Falcons. They did total 115 rushing yards in this particular game. As far as the receiving options for the Atlanta Falcons, nobody really stuck out too much besides Chris Blair. Number 19 had 3 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown, including a long 52-yard touchdown reception. So hopefully that sticks out for him and he's able to try to make a roster spot here for this Atlanta Falcons team. We've seen Dylan Drummond also had 4 catches for 22 yards to note as well in this matchup. DJ Chark, who also expects to be a big part of this offense after he was newly signed just a few weeks ago, did get 1 catch for 11 yards. And that's about it. Looking over at the defensive stats here, not a whole lot to note. For the Atlanta Falcons on defense, we did see Lamar Jackson had 8 total tackles, 6 solo tackles, as well as Caleb Johnson, the linebacker, also had 7 total tackles in this game of note. Nice to see Xavier Watts, the rookie safety, making a good impact, and also James Pierce Jr. got some action, the first-round pick for the Atlanta Falcons as well in this matchup. Okay, guys, so we'll go over the other game that's currently being played as we are live streaming here on this Friday night. The Kansas City Chiefs are taking on the Seattle Seahawks, and we'll go over the box score here for you guys. As of right now, Gardner Minshew having himself a pretty good day right now. He's 7 for 9 for 70 yards and a passing touchdown already, and that passing touchdown went to Robert Tonyan, and Robert Tonyan could be a big play tight end here for this offense for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. A little underrated, but hopefully he's able to come back and get back to form as a good playmaking tight end after we've seen Robert Tonyan try to come back from a big injury that he suffered a couple of years ago with the Green Bay Packers. And I believe last year he played for the Chicago Bears, if I'm not mistaken, but really didn't make much of an impact on that team. Carson Steele, the third string running back, more than likely for the Kansas City Chiefs, has 7 carries for 22 yards as well. Watch out for Elijah Mitchell as well, as we could see 4 running backs in that backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs during their final roster cuts, as right now the expected running backs in the backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs are Isaiah Pacheco. You also got Kareem Hunt, and then not to mention you've got Carson Steele, who did pretty well last year as a rookie, and Elijah Mitchell now comes in as the new running back for the Kansas City Chiefs running attack, and we'll have to see how that plays going forward for the Kansas City Chiefs running game. They also have Tyquan Thornton, who was believe a second-round pick for the New England Patriots a couple of years ago. So he got released over the offseason. So it's going to be really interesting to see here if Tyquan there is able to compete and get a roster spot here with this Kansas City Chiefs squad. As far as defense, nothing really to note here on the defensive side of the ball as of yet for this Kansas City Chiefs team. As we look over this preseason game, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Seattle Seahawks. Drew Lock went 3 for 3 for 39 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown going to Jake Bobo, the wide receiver, has 1 catch for 12 yards, and that touchdown reception. We also see Damian Martinez, the rookie running back, is getting a lot of work here with 1 catch for 13 yards and 4 carries for 31 yards as well, averaging almost 8 yards per carry. We also see Zach Carbonet has a really good day as well, averaging 9 yards per carry with 5 carries for 49 yards in this matchup. I really see that the Seattle Seahawks offense is going to be predicated a lot by running the football going forward, and I think that's going to be a big deal for Seattle as they go forward and try to sort of compete in this tough division here in the NFC West. All right, guys, so we'll go on to the other key games to look over for this upcoming weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, we kick things off with the Lions at home taking on the Miami Dolphins. In this game, a couple of key guys to sort of pay attention to. In this matchup here, Zach Wilson, who's competing to be the backup quarterback. We'll see him play a lot. We also should see Ollie Gordon II, the draft pick for the Miami Dolphins in this past 2025 NFL draft. He could definitely compete for that backup running job position, so we'll see a lot of him. Also, the wide receiver Washington here, Tajay Washington, wide receiver number 7, could be a big playmaking wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins if we see he gets a chance to compete as well. Over for the Detroit Lions, we see Kyle Allen had himself a pretty good game last week as he looks to build off that, trying to compete for that backup quarterback job here in his 7th season against the young quarterback, Hendon Hooker, that from the University of Tennessee. Look out for Craig Reynolds. Yeah, shout out to another Reynolds. Craig Reynolds trying to make the roster as well as possibly that 3rd string running back for the Detroit Lions backfield. Definitely a guy to keep your eye on here for this team. And I'm telling you what, man, this Detroit Lions team looks a little shaky early on in this preseason, but it's all preseason as of right now. So this Miami Dolphins squad, though, that's someone I'm definitely going to keep my eye on with this game this upcoming weekend, because I really am going to be shocked to see how many injuries are on the injury report for the Miami Dolphins going forward as we look at that matchup. All right, guys, next matchup to know is my Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow night, and a couple of key guys to look out for in this game. How about Miller? Ryan Miller, number 81, the wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, had himself a really good game last week in their first preseason matchup against the Tennessee Titans, as he was able to haul in 6 catches for 66 yards in that matchup last week. And how about Owen Wright, the 4th string running back, I believe, maybe even 5th string running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, is competing his butt off. He had 18 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown last week against the Tennessee Titans. So we'll see how he's able to do and how this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense will be able to do as well. Now, one of the big key things to check out in this upcoming game is we should see the debut of Teddy Bridgewater possibly competing for that backup quarterback spot with quarterback Kyle Trask. Now, Kyle Trask played very, very well last week, going 12 for 16 for 129 yards, and I liked really how Kyle moved around in the pocket. He looked very, very comfortable, even with that pocket collapsing on him a few times throughout those first few drives that we've seen from Kyle Trask. But I'm really excited to see what Teddy Bridgewater can do, because right now, Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask are pretty much our 2 healthy quarterbacks right now, with Michael Pratt, the young quarterback from Tulane that we got on the practice squad last year as a rookie. He was supposed to come and compete for the backup job or possibly as the 3rd string quarterback, but he's on the PUP list now dealing with a back injury. So something to just pay attention to going forward. There will be an interesting backup quarterback battle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward. Now, going over and looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're not going to see a lot of their starters in this game. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they actually are going to play some of their starters in this matchup, but some key members of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers squad that won't be playing are quarterback Baker Mayfield, after he had a great practice day yesterday, or today, I believe, according to head coach Todd Bowles. We also will not see Antoine Winfield Jr., Cade Otton, or Rachaad White, especially after Rachaad White injured his groin in the first week of the preseason last week. So we probably won't see Rachaad White for the rest of the preseason, if I had to guess. When you have a groin injury like that, that's something that you definitely want want to take care of right away. What's going on, Jason? What do I think of the Falcons? Well, man, to be honest with you, I'm really nervous about them. I think their defense is going to be a little bit better because they got a lot younger on that defensive line and got a couple of more key pieces to help out that secondary. But I just don't know if I trust this offense for the Atlanta Falcons. And we got to see what Michael Penix Jr. is going to be like for a full season to really tell if this Atlanta Falcons team is going to be a legit one. But when you got a head coach like Raheem Morris, I think he's definitely going to help that defense play a lot better. But I just don't trust that offense for the Atlanta Falcons coming up this year. So best of luck to the Falcons. I think it's all going to depend on how Michael Penix Jr. does in his sophomore season, his second year as the NFL starting quarterback. When you think about it, though, this is actually his rookie year because this will be the first year that the team is his and he is the legitimate starter for the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm going to be focusing on that this upcoming season. But going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys, they will be without tight end Jonnu Smith, wide receiver Calvin Austin, Darius Slay, the veteran cornerback, and also Will Howard, the rookie quarterback who's trying to compete for that backup QB job, is questionable to play in this game, and this would have been a very big game for him to play to see if he can compete with, I believe, is it Kyle Rudolph? If I'm not mistaken, for the backup quarterback job for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But in this game, a couple of guys that we'll try to keep our eyes on for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this matchup, especially with those injuries that they're dealing with right now. I think we got to look at, obviously, the backup quarterback job, Mason Rudolph. So Mason Rudolph is trying to compete. We also got Skylar Thompson on the roster as well, but a guy that maybe struggled to make the roster if I had to guess for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The running game is one thing to definitely note for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they did not run the football very well in their first week, their first preseason game. So we'll have to see how running backs Caleb Johnson, the rookie, and also Kenneth Gainwell, who came from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, we'll see how they're able to play and mix things up in the running game here for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. So that's definitely something to note. It's also going to be interesting as well to see what wide receivers really step their game up to make this roster. You got the veteran Robert Woods. You more than likely think he's going to get a roster spot. But then you got Ben Saronic, who's been around the league for a few years, and also Scotty Miller, who's a fast guy, I think can really make this team as well. Calvin Austin looks to be their sort of slot guy for that offense, and then Jalen Warren obviously will be the new starting running back for them heading into this year if I had to guess. But that running back position, that running game is going to be a key position for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And I mean, how about the upgrade at the tight end position? The tight end room now for the Pittsburgh Steelers has 4 legit starters, so it's going to be really interesting to see there what happens with the tight end position as well. And for the defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the big thing for me is what's going to happen with this contract holdout between Cameron Hayward, the defensive tackle who made All-Pro again last year and wants to renegotiate his contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this could be a tough week for Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Hopefully they're able to get a contract situation worked out with defensive tackle Cameron Hayward. This guy is definitely a pillar for that defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, so something to keep our eyes on here for that Pittsburgh Steelers squad. Another guy on defense, a rookie that I'm going to have my eyes on throughout these next couple of weeks is linebacker and pass rusher Jack Swagger, or Swear, however you might say that. The linebacker and pass rusher from the Ohio State Buckeyes, the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. He seems like a guy that could have a really, really big impact here for this team, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And not to mention, their secondary also looks pretty improved, even though they have lost Mika Fitzpatrick in that trade with the Miami Dolphins. So just really interesting game to be checking out tomorrow as my Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow. All right, guys, so going on to our next matchup, we got the Green Bay Packers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. And, of course, the matchup and the battle that everyone's going to be watching in this one is, does Daniel Jones take over that starting quarterback position away from the young quarterback Anthony Richardson, who has not lived up to being one of those top draft picks in his draft class? And especially after being injured last week and jumping out and getting out of that game, I'm really going to be interested to see what happens in this particular matchup and whether or not not Daniel Jones really grabs the reins, if you will, for that Colts offense and becomes their starting quarterback. We'll just have to see what happens with that going forward. I think the Colts backup running back position is also something to note and to pay attention to for this Colts team, because honestly, behind Jonathan Taylor, they don't really have a lot of depth right now in that running back room. I mean, Tyler Goodson did pretty good last year with some of his opportunities, right? Khalil Herbert has got the experience. To me, he probably has the lane to that backup running back position, but we still have to wait and see what happens. But man, the weapons that this offense will have for the Indianapolis Colts, as long as they can get decent play from the quarterback position, I think the Colts are going to be legitimate contenders. And I'm really excited to see what Tyler Warren, the rookie tight end from Penn State, can do in this offense for the Indianapolis Colts. He's definitely a guy that's high on my radar, especially in fantasy football this upcoming year. So guys, on defense, just some people to look out for here for the Indianapolis Colts. I want to see what Kitty Payne, number 51, the defensive end from Michigan, is able to do. He's a guy that really needs to step up and kind of live up to being that high draft pick that he was all those years ago. So definitely something to pay attention to there for the Indianapolis Colts defense. So going to the Green Bay Packers, as we look over their team and what to expect next week, they will be without quarterback Jordan Love, who had a procedure done on his non-throwing hand, something to do in his ligaments of his thumb. So hopefully that's all okay. They said he should be ready to go by week 1 in this upcoming matchup as well. But definitely a guy that's trying to make this roster that we need to pay attention to could be Will Shepherd, the undrafted free agent signed a rookie wide receiver from the University of Colorado. He's definitely a guy to pay attention to that could help this wide receiver room. And Savon Williams, also a guy that they drafted out of TCU, could be a guy that makes a big impact here for the wide receiver room for the Green Bay Packers. But you can't forget about Matthew Golden. This guy quickly is starting to get a lot of attention of the locker room, and I think this guy really could step up his game. But they also got McCole Hardman in that wide receiver room as well, so it's stacked right now. And not only that, I'm wondering who the backup running back is going to be for the Green Bay Packers here behind Josh Jacobs. It's actually kind of scary when you think about it, because if Josh Jacobs was to suffer an injury, I don't know if I trust any of these guys right now to be the backup running back for this Green Bay Packers offense. So we'll have to see what happens for them going forward. And then as far as the defense goes for Green Bay, I'm really wondering how they're going to replace all-pro cornerback Alexander in the secondary. Right now, you'll have to see guys like Nixon really step up their game. Bo Melton, who's now a cornerback, converting from a wide receiver to cornerback. I wonder how that's really going to work for the secondary for the Green Bay Packers. And you have to think that Nate Hobbs, that big free agent signing that they had for that cornerback position, could be a guy to definitely pay attention to for the Green Bay Packers in this matchup, as the Green Bay Packers take on the Indianapolis Colts tomorrow night in week 2 of the preseason. So guys, going on to our next matchup, we got the New England Patriots taking on the Minnesota Vikings. There's not much to really look over, I believe, in this particular matchup. You won't see a lot of the starters playing, I think, for either team. Definitely the keynote would be to check out Sam Howell. He supposedly is supposed to be the backup for J.J. McCarthy. And I don't know how much actually of action we will see the second-year quarterback have, but definitely something to keep our eye on is Justin Jefferson suffered a hamstring injury, I believe, a week ago in practice, and this could be really, really big for the Minnesota Vikings, because if he's not healthy at the start of the season, the Vikings season could be done for already. So we'll have to see what happens going forward with them. I know for the New England Patriots, I'm really interested to see, Travion Henderson, the rookie running back this year, I think is poised to be able to get a lot of carries in this New England Patriots offense, especially showing off the speed in the return game last week with the touchdown on a kickoff return for the New England Patriots in their first preseason game. You have to think Rashad Stevenson's probably not going to get a whole lot of work compared to what we've normally seen from him over the last few weeks. So that's just the New England Patriots taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Next up, guys, we got the Cleveland Browns taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, what's very interesting about this one, guys, is the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback job is really up in the air, even though it seems like Joe Flacco has the starting quarterback spot secured here. Well, coming into this matchup, we have 3 of the 4 quarterbacks actually, or I should say, the 5 quarterbacks injured and may not even play in this one. We got Kenny Pickett, who is yet to play this preseason, questionable for this matchup. So is rookie quarterback Dylan Gabriel, who has yet to play yet this preseason, and Shedeur Sanders, who balled out last week for the Cleveland Browns, unfortunately suffered an oblique injury this week in practice, and he could possibly miss this preseason matchup as well here in week 2 as the Cleveland Browns take on the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that going forward. And there's also been reports that Dylan Sampson, the 3rd round running back from the University of Tennessee that the Cleveland Browns took in this past year's draft, could possibly be the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns, especially with Junkins just now coming back to the team after his legal matter was taken care of. For the Philadelphia Eagles, what's going to be interesting about them is that right now A.J. Brown is dealing with a sort of hamstring injury, and this seems to be a common problem for A.J. Brown over the last few years, dealing with these hamstring injuries. So they got to make sure that he gets back healthy before the start of the season. The backup running back is going to be an interesting spot for this Philadelphia Eagles offense. I think Will Shipley is definitely a guy who's got big playmaking skills, even with the little bit of reps that he got last year. I think he showed that, and he should be a big playmaker behind Saquon Barkley in that backfield. And how about, let me make sure I get this guy's name right because he balled out last week. Tanner McKee, the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a 6th round pick for the Eagles back in 2023 from Stanford. And man, this guy, 6'6", 231 pounds, balled out last week in the preseason as he went 20 for 25 for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also added a rushing touchdown. So it's going to be really interesting to see if he can really grab the reins of this backup quarterback job for the Philadelphia Eagles offense. So definitely talked about the wide receiver room for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's something to keep your eye on here in the preseason because they've had some injuries and they haven't had a lot of depth at that wide receiver position for the Philadelphia Eagles over the last few years. Obviously, it didn't matter to them last year. They still were able to go and win the Super Bowl. So I wonder what's going to happen with that going forward. So maybe something to keep our eyes on here in week 2 of the preseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, we're watching that QB battle with the Cleveland Browns. And as far as their defense goes, not really much to look at. Maybe you've got to see how that secondary is going to play with some of the key injuries already to that secondary for the Cleveland Browns offense. But I think the pass rush is going to be the strength of that Cleveland Browns defense, to be honest, especially with rookie defensive tackle Mason Graham. And guys, next up, we got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Houston Texans. This one here, key matchups to look at here. I want to see how the rookie wide receiver McMillan is going to do, especially going up against a guy like Stingling Jr. If he's going to play in this game, I don't know for sure if we'll see all the starters for the Houston Texans, whether or not in this game. But I tell you what, it should be pretty cool if we get to see that sort of matchup in this one. For the Carolina Panthers, I'm really interested to see what their running back room is going to look like because right now it doesn't look like the running game is going to be their strong suit, although Dowdle looks like he could be able to carry the load for them in the running game. The defense should be well improved for the Carolina Panthers heading in to this preseason, but we just got to see how all of them are going to play. And for the Houston Texans, I mean, not really much to go over for the Texans, honestly. Their tight end room is getting really small. They had a couple of tight ends already go out this during practice and could miss, I think, the whole year. Honestly, as far as their tight end room, they're going to be really tight and not have a lot of depth there. So this is something maybe to check out there for the Houston Texans. All right, guys, the next matchup here, we got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. And definitely it's going to be the quarterbacks to pay attention to here in this one, not only for the Raiders, but also for the Niners. I think seeing, Mac Jones finally being a part of the Shanahan offense could be a big deal, especially backing up Brock Purdy. And I mean, you know how usually the injury bug hits the 49ers. They're already dealing with it right now in their wide receiver room. And that's something that we got to pay attention to with this Niners team heading into this matchup. Are they going to have the weapons to be able to compete not only in this division, but in the NFC conference? I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to have hardly anybody to throw the ball to with how many injuries they're dealing with right now at the wide receiver position. But remember, they still have George Kittle. They still have Nick Bosa's at the top of his game as well. And that offensive line should be a top offensive line in the league again coming up this year. And speaking of offensive line, well, the Las Vegas Raiders have a beat-up offensive line with right now newly signed guard from over the offseason, Alex Kappa, is questionable for this game. And so is Jackson Powers Johnson, the center there for the Las Vegas Raiders. So something to keep your eye out on here if you are a Raiders fan. And then also, you want to see Ashton Genty get a little bit more work in this week. If we can see it, that would be nice, especially after having only 3 carries last week for negative yardages. And then also, who's going to break out in this wide receiver room for this Las Vegas Raiders offense? I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with that as well. And I think that this San Francisco 49ers defense could take a downturn heading into this year, so that could be a big problem for them, as I don't think this defense is going to compete very well for 49ers fans' liking, that is. We see coming up next, guys, we've got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Dallas Cowboys. A very interesting matchup here, especially when you look at the backup quarterbacks for Baltimore and for the Dallas Cowboys, as Joe Milton III is trying to compete for that backup quarterback job, and he will go up against Cooper Rush, who now is the new backup quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. A well-earned contract for Cooper after he backed up Dak Prescott over the last few years for the Dallas Cowboys, and actually played pretty good when Dak was injured and he had to fill in for him as the starting quarterback. Also for Dallas, they'll be looking at that running back room and that wide receiver room to see who steps up in those particular rooms. The defense, though, for Dallas just looks like it's going to be bad this year overall. So I'm not really sure who we're going to look at to step up on this defensive side of the ball for the Dallas Cowboys, but best of luck to them going forward. As far as the Baltimore Ravens, that running back room last week looked like it was finally starting to come back. But as we head into this week, Kenyon Mitchell and Rashin Ali, I honestly think are questionable and could not even play in this upcoming matchup. So that could be big for this Baltimore Ravens team. And they need to make sure they keep their guys healthy, man, because right now I believe that Derrick Henry and Hill are the only 2 healthy running backs right now in that backfield for the Baltimore Ravens. So definitely something to keep our eyes on here. Baltimore is definitely going to be a legit contender this year, so not really any negatives to worry about with them. I'm just worried about that Dallas defense this upcoming year, guys, to be honest with you. All right, guys, coming up next, we're talking about the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Los Angeles Rams, and the Battle of LA will start this preseason. And the big question mark for the Rams is what's going on with Matthew Stafford. So that's why it's big to pay attention to these quarterbacks here in this game and matchup for the Los Angeles Rams, because I think that Stetson Bennett has a chance to overtake Jimmy Garoppolo as the backup in this offense, and he could end up starting some games if Matthew Stafford misses time with this back injury that he's dealing with right now in training camp. And how about the backup quarterback job for the Los Angeles Chargers? I mean, Trey Lance, talk about the guy showing out as being a top 5 pick. He finally has shown his worth, I believe, in this Harbaugh offense. So maybe we'll get to see what he's able to do. I think it's also going to be very interesting to see what happens with this running back position as well for the Chargers, especially with Najee Harris missing some time now with an eye injury that he suffered from a fireworks accident on the 4th of July. So if Najee Harris can come back healthy, I think this running game is going to be a key component for this Chargers offense, and I think their defense is going to be even better than last year, because the Chargers defense really, I think, surprised a lot of people last year, being one of the top defenses in the league. For this Rams team, yeah, I mean, it's all really going to come behind Matthew Stafford and how healthy they can stay, not only on defense but in offense, because because they don't have a lot of depth at any position on this football team, but they still have a pretty decent football team. So if you're a Rams fan, really something to look forward to, but you got to keep your eye out on that Matthew Stafford back injury because that is no joke. It looks like they're beating around the bush about it, and this could be a big deal for Rams fans as they head into the 2025 NFL season. All right, guys, coming up next, we got the New York Jets taking on the New York Giants as we see the Battle of New York there at MetLife Stadium in East Weatherford, New Jersey. And, guys, in this one, there's a couple of key guys to pay attention to in this one. How about the backup quarterback job for the New York Jets? We could see Martinez, who played in the UFL and really balled out a couple of years ago, really take hold of that backup quarterback job, especially with Tyrod Taylor being out with some injuries right now that he's dealing with, although he is expected to be ready to play week 1, but we could see Martinez still possibly be the backup quarterback for the New York Jets going forward. The New York Jets have a big stacked running back room, so it's going to be really interesting how that plays out as well in this matchup. And then I also want to see how this New York Jets defense sort of meshes with the new head coach there, Aaron Glenn. And not only that, for the New York Giants, as we switch over to their team, I'm excited to see what Jackson Dart does as a follow-up performance after we've seen him go 12 for 19 for 154 yards and 1 passing touchdown last week, and also showed off the legs and his scrambling ability. He had 3 carries for 24 yards, but I was impressed with Jackson Dart's pocket movement last week in the New York Giants' first preseason matchup. So hopefully if that continues, I mean, this could mean that Jackson Dart could probably push Russell Wilson for that starting quarterback job, especially if Russell Wilson struggles at the beginning of the year and the New York Giants aren't winning very many games. Now, the Giants have a lot of injuries for their offense. Right now, their top 3 wide receivers, Jalen Hyatt, Malik Neighbors, and Darius Slayton are all questionable with injuries, and so is the running back, the rookie, Cam Skattebo from Arizona State. I think Skattebo could be the starting running back for the New York Giants and definitely a guy that I'm looking at in fantasy football, but honestly, this sucks to see them questionable heading into this matchup because week 2 of the preseason is when you would like to see a lot of these young guys play a little bit more to see how they mesh into this offense. And I think head coach Brian Daboll has got his hands full here, trying to figure out if he can get these guys healthy and get these playmakers on the field for this New York Giants offense. Now, the defense, I'm hearing making a lot of noise in training camp for the New York Giants because this D-line looks like it could be one of the best defensive lines in the National Football League with all the reports that we're hearing coming out of them. And you know the New York Jets defense has got to play better under new head coach Aaron Glenn. I think that would just be safe to assume that, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. So, guys, only got a few more matchups to talk about. Coming up next, we got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Denver Broncos. And in this matchup, we would like to see who the backup is going to be for Denver. I think Jared Stidham has good control of that backup position. He went 14 for 15 last week for 136 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, and also had 3 carries for 36 yards. So showing off the footwork and the pocket presence was Stidham last week. I'd like to see that. And then also a key thing to pay attention to for the Denver Broncos is that wide receiver room and what kind of depth they're going to have at that wide receiver position. I think the running game is going to be well improved for the Denver Broncos heading into this season because with rookie running back RJ Harvey and veteran running back J.K. Dobbins, I really think that this running game is going to be a lot better for the Denver Broncos heading into next year. Now, talking about the Arizona Cardinals, I'm really interested in what's going to happen with the playmakers on this offense. I don't really know if I trust their running game, although, I mean, you got to give your kudos to Connor. I think he's a really good running back, but whether or not they're going to have enough depth behind him to sort of keep this running game going and keep the pressure off of Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray didn't do too bad last week in his preseason debut. 7 for 8 for 96 yards passing. He did throw 1 interception, but again, the pocket movement by Kyler Murray looks excellent. It's nice to see him fully healthy heading into this year. And the big question mark, I think, for the Arizona Cardinals is going to be, can this offensive line really protect Kyler Murray going forward? That's going to be really the big question here in this particular matchup. All right, so guys, we'll go to our next matchup of the night as we get down to our last couple here. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the New Orleans Saints. The the second round QB, Tyler Shutt, didn't do too bad last week in his debut for the New Orleans Saints. He went 15 for 22 for 165 yards passing, one passing touchdown, and one interception. But Spencer Rattler had himself a pretty decent day, including carrying the ball for 3 times for 22 yards, as those two guys are competing for that starting quarterback job for the New Orleans Saints, and that's going to be the big watch this preseason for them. Who's able to take the reins of that starting quarterback position is going to be huge for them going forward, especially if you're a Saints fan. And then I'm also worried about that defense, because if they don't stay healthy, I don't know how good that defense is really going to be for the New Orleans Saints this upcoming year. Could be a long season for Saints fans. And then, guys, going over on the Jacksonville Jaguars side, it would have been really nice to see what Travis Hunter was able to do again in his second preseason game, but he is questionable to play in this game and more than likely won't play after suffering, I believe it was a foot injury Friday in practice for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I don't expect to see him. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the wide receivers really play out for this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. We also have a backup quarterback job up for grabs here for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. Nick Mullins is the guy who's the veteran looking to grab that backup quarterback job. So we'll have to see how he's able to do it. But I think it would be bad on me if I did not mention what happened last week for the special teams. That's right. Place kicker Cam Little, number 39, now has a 99 overall kick power in Madden because he hit a 70-yard field goal at the end of the first half for the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. Unbelievable. A guy you definitely have got to look at in your fantasy football leagues this upcoming year is kicker Cam Little for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So watch out for him, guys, going forward. And then, guys, we got only a few more games here left to talk over about week 2 of the NFL preseason. We also got on Sunday the Bills taking on the Chicago Bears. Mitch Trubisky looked pretty good last week as the backup quarterback for the Buffalo Bills was doing pretty good. What's going on, Fanatic Trev? He had went 13 for 19 last week, or I should say 9 for 13 for 138 yards, 1 passing touchdown, but had very good pocket movement for Mitch Trubisky. Nice to see that, as he's pretty much secured that backup quarterback job for the Buffalo Bills. For the Buffalo Bills, something to note for them, I'm really interested to see how their backups play for the defense, especially after how many injuries we've seen this Buffalo Bills defense suffer last year. So their depth is going to play a big part, I think, in Buffalo's game plan going forward, but they're going to compete this upcoming year. That I have no doubt about that. But definitely something to pay attention to is their kicker, Tyler Bass, is still questionable for this game and questionable heading into the season. So something definitely to keep our eyes out on for the Buffalo Bills. And as far as the Chicago Bears go, it's only one thing we're looking at, guys. How will Caleb Williams play in this offense? We'll see his first preseason action here in the new head coach's offense, and I wonder if Ben Johnson is going to have a lot of plays to throw at Caleb Williams. Will he play one series, multiple series? That's what's going to be the most interesting thing to pay attention to here in this matchup. And also something to pay attention to, there's a lot of injuries in the secondary for the Chicago Bears. So it's going to be really interesting to see who steps up in that secondary to help out with the depth for the Chicago Bears team. All right, guys, heading into our last matchup of the weekend here, we got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Washington Commanders. And, guys, in this one, I'm really interested to see how some of the newer players are going to mesh with the Washington Commanders after they signed a lot of veterans over the offseason during free agency. But with wide receiver Terry McLaurin yet to sign a contract extension with the Washington Commanders, it's going to be really interesting to see this wide receiver room for the Washington Commanders and who is able to step up and be a very good target for second-year quarterback Jalen Daniels. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him. Going over some key injuries, backup quarterback Marcus Mariota is questionable heading into this matchup, so we may get to see what the third and fourth string quarterbacks may be able to do for the Washington Commanders. I'm also interested to look at the running back room for the Washington Commanders. There's a rookie named Ja'Cory Corset Merritt, number 32. Apparently he's making a lot of actions with he's making a lot of impact in practice, with possibly being able to be a big impact guy for this roster for the Washington Commanders. So really interesting to see what happens there. We also got Michael Gallup trying to make this roster here, and he could be a big impact player for this wide receiver room, especially if we see Terry McLaurin miss any time with this contract dispute right now for the Washington Commanders. I think their defense is going to be well improved this upcoming year for the Washington Commanders, just with all the big veteran free agents that they were able to sign this offseason. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, not much to really go over, guys, except who's going to step up for this defense, especially without them getting a contract extension done as of yet with Trey Hendrickson. I think it's going to be a very big deal to see how this defense plays in these last 2 preseason games for the Cincinnati Bengals. So, guys, this has been my Friday football talk here on Tim Reynolds Show as we talk about what the upcoming games are to look at here in week 2 of the preseason. Thank you guys for hanging out here on the channel. Please make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to Tim Reynolds Show, and we'll see you guys next week for more Friday football talk, where we just go over all the big kind of stories happening every single week. Also, guys, some big news that happened this week. Looks like the NFL has a big deal with ESPN. That's right, guys. And looks like we will see NFL games at more of a premium location on the app, the ESPN app, as ESPN has acquired rights to the NFL Network, and also NFL Sunday Ticket will soon be coming to ESPN and their app. So that's where you'll actually be getting your NFL Sunday Ticket going forward after this year. I believe the contract runs out with YouTube at the end of this season. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with NFL programming now that they have this huge deal with ESPN. And I'm really excited to see what's going forward. Love you too, bro. Thanks for hanging out on the chat. Just see what happened with Terry. Are you talking about with Hulk Hogan? If you're talking about Hulk Hogan there, my brother, yeah, man, it was just so sad to see that with Hulk Hogan, man, a couple weeks ago. Rest in peace, man, to the late, great Hulk Hogan. But, hey, thank you guys for hanging out here on the channel for Tim Reynolds Show's Friday Football Talk. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Friday Football Talk right here on one of the most electrifying sports entertainment channels on YouTube today. This is Tim Reynolds Show. Now, let's go. Thank you guys for all your love and support, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.